I don't know what that was, but I know what this is. This is LOVE, or love, or L is for the way you look at me, or whatever. If you know this song, if you recognize part of that, let's jump in and figure out how to play this. If you're an absolute beginner, that's totally cool. We can deal with that. I'll show you the very first note of this thing. You want to ignore everything except for the letters that are inside of the circles. So there we go. Don't worry about anything else. It's written all this stuff over here, all this scary stuff. If you're an absolute beginner, just notice that there is a G inside of this note right here, and then play that. If you don't know where a G is, we can handle that too. Let's do this. If you take any group of 3 black notes, like these ones right here, these ones right here, literally any group of 3 black notes, you just take the note that's in the middle and you drag it down slightly. That's to the left. You'll land on a G every single time. And if you play that and say L, then you've not said the letter of the note, but you have said the beginning of the lyrics, and you're already on your way. So there we go. That's a G. And then next, we're going to have this thing right here, an F with a little hashtag in it. So because of the alphabet, because this goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it starts over, actually, A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up the piano. The one right next to the G is going to be an F, A, B, C, D, E, F. Kind of weird at first to go backwards to the alphabet, but this one would be an F if this one's a G. Hopefully that makes some sense to you. Then this hashtag thing, in music, that's called a sharp sign, and that just means we just lied to you. We said F, but it's not really F. It's a different note. It's the note that's slightly higher than F, the note that's right next to F, so don't play, oh, thanks, Sarah. Appreciate your comments. Don't play the F, play the note that's slightly higher. This one right here, that one's known as an F sharp, and that's the note that you're supposed to be playing, F sharp. And you're supposed to say out loud, is. So we have L is. L is the G, and then the word is goes on the F sharp. And we'd have L is, and we're already on our way. Actually, it's not going to get too much more difficult than that, I don't think. But there are a lot of notes, so we'll just play the same F sharp one more time and say the word for, and we're on our way. So is for, both F sharps. Cool. This next one is an E, and it's not a lie. Hooray. So this note right here would be an E. Be careful, because most people, I think, are going to end up on an F on that one, because they're going to think, well, that's a G and that's my F sharp, so that one must be an E. But the letters only go on the white notes. So these are all up here, are all known as sharp or flat. So we got G, F sharp, this one's an E, and then we have another one of those liar notes where it's not a D, it's a D sharp. So we're gonna play the note that's slightly higher than D. That would be this one right here, and it sounds really weird out of context. It sounds like definitely that's the wrong note, but it's definitely the right note. Then we're gonna say way on that one. So what we have so far is G, F sharp, E, D sharp. Okay, cool. So if you've not played any songs before, then that's going to be a challenge. You're going to need to practice that up because that is the thing that you're going for. It's just the little snippet of music that makes sense to you, but you can't quite do yet. You don't want to try to take on the whole entire song at the beginning. So L is for the way. Once you can play that and say the words and it kind of sounds like the song, you're ready to move on to the E for you, and then back up to G for look. And then at me is both F sharp. So we would play this. L is for the way you look at me. Okay, cool. Again, you should not have this down, especially if you haven't already played, 100 or more songs. This is gonna take some practice. But I'm gonna move on because hopefully you're pausing the video or muting me or whatever as soon as you've got something good to practice. But I'm gonna keep going here, so when you come back to the video, we can move on to F sharp for O, and then E for is for, the own is a C sharp, so don't play a C there. You notice it's got the little hashtag in it, and some of these have a hashtag next to them as a warning. The ones that don't in this song are Fs, and that's because you got your warning way back here, and I told you to ignore this, and you should, because the letters are all written in. But just in case you wanted to know, this one right here is on the line that would be the F note. If you had a note on that line right there, it would be an F. So that line is the F line. And so because that hashtag is on that F line at the very beginning of the song, they're letting you know all the Fs that are coming up, they're all going to be sharp, and we're not going to warn you ahead of time. Any other sharps we'll warn you about, but F sharps we're not going to warn you about. So that's why this one over here doesn't have a big hashtag next to it, even though it is a sharp, but this one over here, this D, does. Okay, cool. So I probably just created more questions too about like why would you only warn about one of them and stuff. But I'm gonna skip that question for now and let you ask it on your own and not just assume that we wouldn't want to answer that. So own is a C sharp, and then Lee, and then there's that F sharp that didn't really get a warning, but we already know all the Fs are gonna be sharp in this song. So that's 1 I C is 2 E's. So again, from the beginning, we'd have L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. All right, cool. Good news. All of this is going to come back, actually. Let me go ahead and tell you that one. Right here. This section right here is the exact same thing as this section right here. The lyrics change, but the notes are exactly the same. So all of that stuff that you just learned, we're going to reuse it in a little bit. First, we need to come learn these two lines right here. And that's V, that's a B. The note B for the word V is very, very cool. And you notice too, like this is all kind of in a smallish range. So you should probably pick the notes that are like the closest together. Not too many big jumps in this song. There we go. Extraordinary. And so in this case, that second half is the same as the first half of that. And there's a lot of repeating like that in music in general and in jazz particularly, and in this song particularly. And then E is even more than. Is that the same exact thing too? Yes, cool. So that's 3 times in a row we've played the exact same phrase. And then this one's almost the same. Anyone that you adore and there we go. Anyone that you adore and. So that's like similar-ish. You got a B and then 2 A's and then a G, and then it kind of changes from there. So like that first chunk is exactly the same, and then it switches after that. Now, as promised, this next section is all the exact same thing that we already did. Love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. That's the exact same thing as L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. So that's all good. And then this next part is actually the same. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. This part, 2 in love can make it. There we go. Is the same thing as all of those sections. So now this is the, 4th time that phrase has come up? Yeah, a lot of that thing. And then this one right here is the same thing. Take my heart and please don't break it is the same thing as anyone that you adore and. Okay, cool. So then all we have is this last line. And I say all that we have. We just went through all that in like 5 minutes. And it's going to take you like a week or 2 or 3, maybe 4 to practice it up until you can play it all like along with the track in a way that sounds like the song. So, yep. And hang on. Give me just 1 second. Let me open that up for you. Here we go. All right. So, Mikhail, you should be able to... There we go. Now we're talking. And hang on just a second. Sorry. Dealing with the... Oh, no. Okay. Hang on. Sorry, everybody. We're almost here. Should be able to... Okay. Everyone should be able to jump into Zoom as well right now. Cool. Thanks for letting me know. Yep. All right, cool. Back to the song. We're on Zoom. We're on all the platforms. We're doing all the things. Nice. Okay, so then this last line is all we need. Love was made for me and you. That's interesting. So this is maybe like one of the larger jumps of the song is jumping over one note. Love was right there. So G to an E, and then F sharp, E, F sharp, A, G. So there you go. Let's try that from the top. I'll say the words out loud and I'll try to like kind of pay attention to what parts are repeating from before. So we start off on this G right here, and we have L is for the way you look at me. And then we're going to take the second line. O is for the only one I see. And then here's that phrase we're going to keep reusing over and over and over. V is very, very. Same thing again. Extraordinary. Same thing again. E is even more than. And then here's that other like variation on that phrase that we're going to reuse later. Anyone that you adore. And then we're back to those beginning two lines, but with different words. Love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. And then we've got that phrase again for the fourth time. Two in love can make it. And then that other variation on the phrase. Take my heart and please don't break it. Last line. Love was made for me and you. Yeah. All right, cool. So hopefully if that made some sense, then you are ready to move on to the intermediate level. If not, if that did not make sense, then that's cool. Then just like practice the part that did make sense or ask your question. But let's go for it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, to the intermediate. So it's time to transition into the intermediate portion of the lesson. And of course, intermediate is a worthless term because we're all intermediate players. Everybody, you and I included, have people who are looking up to us, who are thinking, man, if I could play like that person, then I could call myself a real musician. And you and I both have people that we're looking up to, thinking, man, if I could play like that person, then I could call myself a real musician. So this is just the part of the lesson where you have permission, if you have found some little nugget of something that is difficult to do, but that makes sense, to take off and go practice it. Don't feel bad about that. Of course, if you want to stick around, you might pick up some extra stuff too, and we'd love to keep chatting with you. But I just want to let all of the new students know you're not supposed to try everything in every lesson. And I want to give everybody else a chance to go get something to drink and take a bathroom break. But it's time to get back to it. Let's go. All right, friends, this is a G chord. It is made up of G and B and D. It doesn't have to be that G and B and D. It could be this G and B and D, or it could be this G and B and D, or any G and B and D combo. That's all variations on a G chord. In fact, there's another way to do variations on a G chord, and that is just take the bottom note here, the lowest note, and put it on top. So instead of G, B, D, we take this G and we put it up here, and we go G, B, D. This is called first inversion, if you have heard that term before. This is an inversion. It's the first inversion because this one with the root on the bottom was root position. And so if we take that and invert it, this is first inversion. If we take the lowest note of first inversion and we put it on the top, now this is the second time we've inverted it. And so this is known as G in second inversion. And then if we put the bottom note on top again, we end up actually just in root position. This is not third inversion because this is the same thing as what we played before with the root on the bottom. So those are kind of our three like main options is root position, first inversion, second inversion. You don't need to know any of that. You can just play that right there because that's what the graph says and not even know what the letters are. And that would totally work. That's what you're gonna play anytime that it calls for a G chord right there. So we would play those three notes right here. Now, usually on the intermediate level, we're just doing the roots, and you could do that. If instead of playing a full G chord there, you could just play the G by itself. Just play the root, play it really low if you want to, and then play the melody with just the root of the G chord. But there aren't actually that many chords in this song. For as long as it is, it goes on and on and on and on. There's only 6 chords, so that's kind of abnormally few for this long of a song. So we got a G and an A is going to show up. That's our A chord. We've got a C chord later on, and then an A minor chord, a D chord, and then we got one C sharp diminished chord. That one right there. So that's all the chords that you're going to need in order to play this thing. I would highly recommend, just like we talked about in the beginner level, that you take it a little tiny snippet at a time. So instead of trying to get through the whole thing, just try to get down. L is for the way you, oh no, A minor. A minor was that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Look. Okay, cool. So that's where I had to do all kinds of thinking. So that's how far I'm going to practice it. L is for the way, oops, I messed up. L is for the L is for the way you. Cool, I got it. And then look. That's the way it's going to sound for a long, long time until you've done that like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. And then eventually, that's going to sound nice and smooth. Once it sounds nice and smooth and sounds like the way you would sing it, then you're ready to move on to the next one. Cool. So we've got a G and then an A minor. Now this says A minor 7, and we'll get to the 7 later on. Anytime you see a 7 right here, just ignore it at the moment. We'll get to that in the advanced level. So we've got a G, A minor to D, to A minor, to D, G, and then another G. It's got G7. In fact, let me get rid of these here so you can see those. Anywhere else? Those are covered up? Nah, that's good. V. V is very, very extraordinary. By the way, the placement of these chords doesn't matter a whole lot. For me, that sounds fine. That sounds a little, I don't want to say better, but a little clearer. This is kind of pushing it. Once you start getting down to like in this territory, it's pretty muddy. So technically this C chord is correct, but it feels too muddy to me. So I'd put it in that range, or put it in an inversion. So it can kind of be in this territory-ish is probably where you're gonna want to stick most of your chords. But that's just a general guideline. You don't have to like follow, don't pay attention to like the actual notes I played. Just play it in the middle-ish range and then pop your right hand way up for the melody. Okay, so then we have V is very, very C chord, extraordinary, A chord, E is even more than anyone that you adore, and then we're back to the beginning part. G, A minor to D, A minor, D, G, another G, C, C sharp diminished, and then G, D, G. And this one right here is a G chord, but over a D. So if you're just doing the roots, you're playing the part of the bass player, you're going to play the D by itself. But if you're playing the chords, you're gonna play a G. And if you're playing both of them, if you're playing the chords and the root, you play a G chord on top and a D on the bottom. So that's G over a D, which is not the way you usually play a G chord. You usually play a G with like G as the lowest note. You play that, a G chord with a G as the bass player. But in this case, the bass player is playing a D. So that's a G over D. Cool. And question, cat at the top for a common tone. Oh, yes. Common time. Wonderful. So let's go back up to that and answer the chat questions. So up here, this C is for common time. And 4/4 time is so common that it's known as common time. And so that's, if you see a C at the beginning instead of a 4/4, then that means 4/4. So good question there and good answer there. And there's no, oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay, cool. So then, right. So then this C is not referring to the key of C. We're in the intermediate level. We can go ahead and address these questions here. So the key of C would be where C feels like home, and we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That'd be in the key of C. This song is not in the key of C, but it is in 4/4 time. So the C stands for 4/4. The letter stands for numbers. And then the number sign stands for letters. That's a little weird. So that a sharp there means that we're in the key of G, which you will only know if you know like the secrets of music, that like the key of G has one sharp and that's F sharp. And so if you see an F sharp, that means the key of G. In the same way that if you see no sharps or flats, that means that you're in the key of C, because only one key has 0 sharps and flats, and that's the key of C. One major key has 0 sharps or flats. So if you see 0 sharps or flats, you automatically know, oh, if you know the secrets of all the keys and stuff, then you know, oh, we're in the key of C because there's no sharps or flats. If there's only one sharp, there's only one key in the known universe that is a major key that has just one sharp in it, and that is the key of G major. So one sharp means it's going to be F sharp, and it means we're going to be in the key of G, meaning that G is the home base. So that's kind of what that means to like more advanced players, is like, if you see a sharp at the beginning, if you see just one sharp, you don't have to see where it is. You know where it is already. It's on the F line, and you already know what key you're in. You're in the key of G, because the key of G is the key of one sharp, the key of F sharp. So, the key where F is sharp. Cool. Hopefully that made sense and didn't just confuse you more than it helped. Okay, so then where were we? Oh, we got to the end with all the chords and stuff. Cool. Alrighty. Well then, let's do the advanced version and see what we have. Hopefully something has made sense so far, because getting into the advanced portion of the lesson, I usually don't even know what's coming up next. So this is just the time where we answer any obscure question, we follow any crazy idea that comes up, and we find out how deep this rabbit hole goes. Good luck to us all. Okay, so at this point now we just try to throw these things together in what is sometimes called three-handed playing. And that's where your left hand's gonna play the roots, like we were talking about before, playing the bass line essentially. And then your melody's being played by your right hand, usually in the like pinky, ring finger, middle finger area. And then these two hands try to like fill in the parts where you would like have chord tones. So you essentially have a singer, you have a bass player, and then you have a guitarist in the middle. So you kind of have like three players playing all at the same time. The way that you do that is probably by not doing any left hand and trying to throw in chord tones underneath the melody in the right hand. So, for example, this first line right here, L is for the way you look. Not look, sorry. That's a different chord. L is for the way you. So then we've got a G chord during that whole entire time. That's G's and B's and D's, and as we already discussed, those G's and B's and D's can be anywhere. So then if we have L is for the way you, we're gonna try to throw in some G's and B's and D's underneath that melody. So like L is for the way you. So I've got that melody that's kind of dancing on top of what I'm calling chord tones, notes out of the chord. And so that way that frees up a lot of the left hand and not have to play a bunch of the chord tones because it's already being taken care of in the right hand. So, and the reason you don't want to put them on top is because anyone who's listening to you is going to hear the highest note. Let me try that entire sentence again. Whatever your highest note is, people are going to hear that as the melody. So if you have like, people are going to hear the melody as ba, 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 ba. Even though if you paid attention to the bottom note that I was playing is for the way you. But because I had other notes on top of it, it like covered up that melody, and so then you couldn't really hear that as the melody, and you were hearing just the highest note. So then that means that you want to put your melody as the highest note. You can put it as high as you want. You can play it up here if you want. So you just got to put your chord tones underneath your melody. Or. Ooh, that's hard to do. So I'm trying to like put in some chord tones underneath that melody. That's really super low. So anyway, wherever your melody is, you just can't do anything else on top of that. Cool. So then if I did that with just the right hand and no left hand, curvy line. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. More questions. This curvy line does not always exist here. I think I see it almost exclusively in handwritten sheet music, which this is a computer font that's supposed to look like it's handwritten sheet music because of like fake books and real books and stuff. And it's like the cool way to do jazz or whatever. So this just means like, is this in a real C? Because if it was just a handwritten C there, it might be more confusing. So that's like, hey, just by the way, this is the time signature C. This isn't just a random C on the paper, because then you do have handwritten C's like up here. So like if you had a C up there and then a C down, you're like, are you talking about chords? Or so I think that's what that's about. The curvy line right here is just like, hey, this is not part of the music. This is just the time signature. So anyway, I think that's what that's about. What we were talking about, before that was trying to get all the chord tones, as many chord tones as possible underneath the melody. So that might look something like this, and then A minor, D chord, A minor chord, D, G. These are not the right notes to put under here. These are just the ones that I'm picking from the chords. So if you wanted to, you just put one note underneath. So I'm just picking one chord tone now to put underneath. So you can put as many or as few as you want. But for the exercise, I would say put as many as you can fit comfortably in your hand. Then we'd have is. Now at this point, like, because the melody's kind of like trampling on my chord tones there, I guess I could have gone like that. But I ended up with just like one extra harmony note, extra chord tone in there. Extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore and love. That's all. And if we just do that with the roots in there, just do that. That would take some practice. That would take a lot of practice to get to that. But if we had that with the roots, it'd be something like. I think I'm doing the exact same thing, but just putting the roots in the left hand. And I don't think it would take very much to like put a little bit of rhythm into it. Maybe just like pulsing the left hand notes. So something like love. This is like dangerously close to a piano solo. So like that's approaching what I was doing at the beginning, and then we just let me see if there's one other question in here too. Kurt Lander from the comment. Oh, 13 copies of the same question. Thank you. I got your question. So then, after that, then we could just throw in like 7s and 9s and stuff like we talk about in our reharm videos, where that's just putting the note that is in the scale on both sides of the root. So for example, this is a G chord, and then we're in the key of G, which means, as we've already discussed, all white notes except for F sharp. So then if we take this root right here and we say what's on both sides of this note in the key, well, just to the left of it in the key is an F sharp, and just to the right of it in the key is an A. And so those are my 7 and my 9 from the key for the G chord. One more time. The G chord, if I add in this one, that would be the 7 of that chord, and that would be the 9 of that chord, because those are inside the key. So another way to do that is put your root up here and then go on both sides of it. And so this is the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and the 9. I just stole the 7 and the 9 from down here. It's the same thing I just played down there, but I'm playing it up here, so it makes more sense with like the whole numbers thing. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And so those are all options on this chord. I don't have to just only stick with the 3 notes of the chord. I can add in these extensions as well. And then we like try to put some of those notes in the left hand as well, so that our right hand is doing the entire job of all the chords, and that's how we end up with the stuff we play at the beginning. And this is the part of the lesson where I try to remember what I said in the lesson and then try to do some of the things that I said, and then if other things leak out, we cover those in just a second. But here we go. I think that was all the same, except that I do want to add in that I frequently throw in an E minor right here. So that was cheating. I threw an E minor after the G before I went to the A minor. But other than that, I think it's all the stuff that I was talking about at the beginning and talking about through the song with some extra rhythms in there. So I think that's all the questions from the chat. If you have more questions because you are not in the chat because you're in the archives, then let me know in the survey after the lesson. And until next time, I think it's time to go explore, mess up, have fun. Rock on, friends.